Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our study of love. We're still in chapter 2, What is Love? 1 Corinthians 13 tells us that love does not boast. So let's look into that a little bit deeper. We're going to go to Philippians chapter 2, verse 3. Do nothing from selfish ambition or conceit, but in humility count others more significant than yourself. This verse is part of a description of how people can be more like Jesus, who is established as the personification of love. It tells us that we should not act out of self-importance, but to consider ourselves below everyone else. Some folks might think that sounds crazy. That would be detrimental to our self-esteem. However, this is what it means to be meek. It doesn't mean that we actually are less than anyone else. What it means is that we should put others above ourselves. If you show love by making someone else feel important, then it will empower them to do the same. We got more to say about that, but we'll get to it later in the study. But you should definitely, show love wherever you can, because it will come back to you. Maybe not in the moment, but it will come back to you. Now we're going to go to Proverbs chapter 20, verses 6 and 7, and this is from the Modern English Version. Most men will proclaim everyone his own goodness, but who can find a faithful man? The just man walks in his integrity. His children are blessed after him. All right, so we've all heard the saying, actions speak louder than words. Instead of bragging about how good we are, we should simply show the world who we are. Let others see it for themselves. In the instance of showing love, it can also be done by action rather than words. If we have to explain to someone how we are acting out of love, then it takes away from their understanding of it. For example, if we use an opportunity to teach our children a lesson that they may not like in the moment, we may explain the lesson we're trying to convey, but should not explain the purpose for our reasoning. If we let them discover it for themselves, it will have much more meaning for them. Wisdom comes with experience, so it may be a long time until this happens. Remember, love is patient. Once they grasp the full understanding, they will pass it on to others. All right. Now we're going to go to 2 Corinthians chapter 10, verses 12 through 18. For we dare not class ourselves or compare ourselves with those who commend themselves. But they, measuring themselves by themselves, and comparing themselves among themselves, are not wise. We, however, will not boast beyond measure, but within the limits of the sphere which God has appointed us, a sphere which especially includes you. For we are not overextending ourselves, as though our authority did not extend to you. For it was to you that we came with the gospel of Christ, not boasting of things beyond measure, that is, in other men's labors, but having hope, that your faith is increased, which shall be greatly enlarged by you and your sphere, to preach the gospel in the regions beyond you, and not to boast in another man's sphere of accomplishment. But he who glories, let him glory in the Lord. For not he who commends himself is approved, but whom the Lord commends. That's funny. We were just talking about that in Sunday school earlier this morning. If you go to God with humility, he will exalt you. And if you go to God exalted, he will humble you. But anyway, going back to this lesson as part of the study, this is quite a bit to unpack. I think it's a great example to consider, though. The passage starts off by saying we shouldn't count ourselves among or against those who speak of their own greatness. If we compare something against itself, then there really is no comparison. For example, let's look at a single apple. Pretend you've never seen another apple before, never even heard of them. All we can do is go by what's right in front of us. Let's say our apple is a green apple that has a bruise on it and a worm working its way through it. Seeing this would kind of turn you off from other apples, wouldn't it? Now, let's expand our sphere to include a bushel of these other green apples. Now we can see that they come in somewhat different shapes and sizes, as well as different states of being, unripe, ripe, decaying. Now we have something to compare with and see that there are some differences. Now expand the sphere further and add red apples. Even more differences for comparison. Now expand further and throw in some oranges. It's an absolute game changer. Some people prefer oranges to apples, for example, and thus, the greater the sphere, or the more items of comparison, the greater the differences become. A person that speaks of their own greatness is using an extremely small sphere of comparison. The bigger the sphere, the more weight the assessment carries. The more we include in our sphere, the greater we become. This is the root of many of the great tragedies in our world today. We should add to ourselves, open our minds, and expand our spheres of measure. A lot of people, limit themselves because they only think to themselves. When you expand your mind, you expand what you are able to accomplish. All right, so the questions for reflection on this one. This section I actually gave 4. Question 13. Do you believe you possess the humility to show this kind of meekness to others? Remember, Jesus washed feet. Question 14. Can you recall a time that you were rightfully humbled and learned from the experience? Question 15. Is it easier to notice others who are boasting and bragging or yourself? Why do you think that is? And finally, question 16. Do you think that there's a difference between arrogance or boastfulness and awareness, which is confidence? Explain. All right. So that is it for that section. And I will see you in the next one.